welcome to this week's edition of the SEANC View Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Owens, Communications Director here at SEANC, the State Employees Association of North Carolina. Joined today by Executive Director Artis Watkins, Government Relations Director Suzanne Beasley, and podcast producer Sam Klein. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, John. Thank you.
Today is Wednesday, April 16th. We're in here a day earlier this week because Good Friday is Friday. Easter's coming up. We have a lot to get to this week, so let's just jump right in. Was it Monday?
It was Monday.
The Senate budget came out.
It did.
We call it the Senate budget, but it's not really the Senate's budget. It's the leadership's budget proposal, right? Because you can't really call it the Senate's budget because it's not passed. But I digress.
You do digress. The Senate budget proposal.
I was just thinking about that while I was posting about, because you want to be accurate in your social media posts. And it's not technically the Senate's budget yet. But anyway, I called it the Senate's budget. So
Definitely wasn't written by Senate.
No, it was not. It was not.
So it called for a 1.25% raise for most state employees and
Yeah.
a $3,000 bonus over 2 years for most employees. Nothing for retirees, no increase or bonus.
Nothing, zip.
Correctional officers would get another 5.25% raise, which with step increases would be 8.9% total.
Mm-hmm.
Probation and parole officers get an additional 2%. And their law enforcement, including officers at the state capitol, get an additional 5.25% raise. The budget also includes the establishment of the Division of Accountability, Value, and Efficiency, or DAVE, and it allocates $6 million for that. What would that be used for, I guess, positions and...
Not exactly sure. No one's specified yet, but they did say in committee there would need to be more people added to the auditor's office to do this work. And they also mentioned AI, so I assume they would be purchasing some sort of technology that would help them do the work. But $6 million to work on this, make a recommendation to the legislature, and for the legislature to do anything but rubber stamp it would mean they spend resources on their end looking into it to see if they believe this new staff is correct. So again, this is not efficient at the end of the day. It's just not. Look at something and make a recommendation, and either you just accept the recommendation or you have to look at it again from another angle, and what you've done is added $6 million more government to decide if you have too much government when you already have 20% plus vacancy rate in that government, and you have much less government than you had 15 years ago if government is defined as positions. So we're adding people and stuff to figure out if we've got too much people and stuff.
And the budget also eliminates vacant jobs by itself. It eliminates 850 jobs over 2 years without Dave's.
Without Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of Senator Berger, I think he's an incredibly smart guy. I think he's a pretty rational guy. This, I don't think, fits the typical Senator Berger formula. It doesn't make sense.
It's kind of messy.
It makes me think that they're trying to get rid of those jobs to, as I've mentioned before on the podcast, say, we don't have any vacant positions. There's nothing wrong here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the one hand, yeah.
Yeah, this story says it still leaves 14,000 open jobs there.
All right, but you got to think, okay, we know the economic situation is very uncertain for everyone in this country, including state budgets. But for all of us, we don't know. We wake up every day to see what the economy is going to look like today, what's happening, or do we have tariffs? Do we have massive layoffs? What's happening? And so I don't know how states are doing budgets at all. But here's what I find most striking. We either are in a mess and we better tighten the belt. So if you're laying off 800 and some people, you're just getting rid of those positions when, again, you already have a ton less positions, but a ton more citizens than you used to, and you got a bunch of vacancies. That means things must be dire, right? That's the only way you would do that under those circumstances. We don't have any money, and we better prepare for economic Armageddon. But if we're doing that, why would we have all the things that are in the Senate budget that increase spending? There's so much, couple million here, 5 million here, and a lot of that's going to non-governmental entities, which who's going to look at that and make sure it's efficient and the taxpayers are being served by that? So I think state employees could feel a lot better about this kind of napalm approach to state government if everything had that approach. Like, we're not spending anything extra, period. Too bad. So that's why we're pushing so hard for, okay, if we're still spending, if it's still okay and we can add a bunch of stuff, if we think something's worthy, we're going to throw money at it, then you better put your people at the front of that line, because nobody would operate a business without making sure they didn't take care of the people first, because otherwise the customers will not get taken care of. And the customers are the citizens.
Well, let's get back to the retirees, because I know there was a considerable amount of disdain for the budget on our social media platforms. And you released a video last night that was very informative. I even learned some things that kind of explained where we are and why this happens every year. Can you maybe touch on it a little bit?
In a nutshell, a lot of people think state retirees have it made. They don't. We have one of the biggest systems in the country, one of the best funded in the country, but we give our retirees far less than the average state. And on top of that, we haven't given a COLA in so many years, nobody can remember when. But 3/4 of the states do give COLAs to their folks. So it's not as though this is just the way it is and we need to be as cautious as everyone else. We're really mistreating our retirees compared to other states. And the part I didn't have time for in that video is that, unless somebody's wondering, well, maybe the employees here didn't put as much into their retirement as in other states. I looked that up too. 21 states, their employees put in more than ours. Ours put in 6% every month, always have. But that means 28 states put in less, and in some cases far, far less per month to their retirement than our folks. So that isn't the answer.
Yeah,
our folks are right in the middle on what they put in, but way down the bottom on what they get.
I recommend everyone go watch that video, because I like the way you laid it out. You started, we are the biggest and baddest, one of the biggest and baddest systems in the whole country. And when employees' checks are first figured, when they first retire, they already start, 10% below the national average on what their checks.
Yeah, on the formula that people use.
So you're already 10%.
You didn't like the video. You said my face was distorted. And it was.
We got to work on the
But it wasn't.
technology.
He thought it was something with the camera. It wasn't. It's just my face.
No, I was just trying to get you a new camera. I was trying to get you a new phone.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why we got you a ring light.
A ring light. There isn't enough ring light.
But that was the thing that I learned, the whole part about they start from behind, and then they don't get COLAs. You pointed out that most, 75% get 3% every year.
Yeah, they start behind and then they get further and further and further behind.
Yeah.
I feel like this is just making me angry, because I'm thinking about, if it were my money, I'm contributing 6% every single month the whole entire time I'm working. And then I'm sitting there once I'm retired thinking, I'm going to get that money back. It's going to come back in and get me adjusted to what life costs right now.
Yeah.
And then you're just sitting there and you're like, where is my money?
And sometimes the public thinks this is some kind of gift to retire. They funded their own retirement in large part. The state's been putting in impressive amounts in recent years simply because the state had taken a complete holiday at one point, didn't put in zip, and then put in very tiny amounts for way too long a period of time. So this is not a gift. This is something retirees invested in themselves in, and that they took less pay than they would have in the private sector to get. So make no mistake, this isn't any kind of gift from the public to these retirees. That's crazy.
So where does the Senate budget go from here? I guess this week you've had a lot of appropriations.
Yeah, it's obviously here in the office with you guys, but when I left the building just a little while ago, it was being debated on the Senate floor. So they'll vote on it today. Final vote will be tomorrow.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So it'll be done by, they said by Easter. I guess they're right.
Yep.
Right. And next up is the House. We have any information on when that will come down?
Have not heard any.
Okay.
Have not heard any date specific. We haven't heard any specifics about the House. Anyway, we do know that Speaker Hall had told the media back when Governor Stein's budget came out that they would do better than Governor Stein. So we'll wait to see what's in the House budget for.
And that was about
folks.
State employees.
Yeah, that was for
about
active state
retirees.
employees.
We'll have to see.
Okay. Is there any appetite for changing the whole click thing you were talking about, the initial?
I don't know. I mean, Suzanne,
Maybe.
What
We've
is the
had some
difference
kind
there?
well,
Like, what is?
it's still money,
It's still recurring
Yeah.
money, right?
but it
would be
is,
recurring.
but it's not near as much. And it would pay off in terms of it benefits everybody, active employees and retirees. So if you want to keep people,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a move
And
towards it.
we've talked with our retiree council here at SEANC about maybe focusing more in that direction. So yeah, that may be our next route to something meaningful for our folks.
So another part of the Senate's budget also came up in committee this week, the
House Bill 92.
House Bill 92, our favorite Bitcoin bill, right? So that language was in the Senate's budget along with the North Carolina Investment Authority language, right, to establish that. But it did change. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So it did change, and it was heard in pensions and retirement this morning. If y'all remember, the original language had a cap of 10% of the pension funds could be invested into digital assets. So SEANC worked hard on this bill. The bill got pulled. We've had conversations with Speaker Hall and his staff. Obviously the other key legislators, the sponsors, Treasurer Briner and SEANC leadership. And we reached a compromise. So that compromise came in the form of a PCS in committee today. That's a preferred committee substitute. When language is changed in a bill, there has to be a preferred committee substitute. And it lowered that cap to 5%. And there's also a provision in there about studying and reporting.
Reporting back how performed.
So we obviously are definitely supportive of that.
And you did speak in front of the committee, and you mentioned that SEANC has had discussions with the speaker.
Yeah, we had a great conversation with Speaker Hall, Neil Inman, his chief of staff, a couple other staffers. So he knew our concerns, and he very much wanted to work with us, and we did. So, we've come to a compromise.
And I think that we have heard from our members, too, that
loud and
we have
clear.
our own heartburn about this, but it seems like they really are.
Well, I mean, they lit up. Nobody put out a call to action. Our retirees lit up. And you know
that's
what?
Understandable.
It is. There are legislators who are lit up over it.
Yeah. But I think one of the things you brought up in the committee that is important is that the treasurer will be tasked with in doing these investments. And if he loses $6 billion of our money, we'll come after him. I mean, we'll hold him accountable, and the voters will too. So.
And he actually said in committee today that he wouldn't invest that much money in these kind of investments, and he wouldn't suggest anyone else do it either. So it was good to hear that openly in committee.
So yes, everyone had a visceral reaction to this. And, some people think that's just ignorance of what crypto investing is all about. Other people think it's generational. I don't think it's either one of those things. I think it's, look, this is a high risk, high reward thing. And that traditionally those can be kind of fun with play money, but with a pension fund, people have a visceral reaction to high risk, high reward. They want something. Well, and I think somebody even said this in committee. We've said it for years. If you just put it in a Vanguard mutual fund and rocked on, you'd do really well. But there's no question that everyone has the same goal of making more in this system. So there will be undistributed gains, meaning profit from your investments, that you can give to the members of the system, the retirees.
In the form of COLAs.
In the form of COLAs or clicks in the formula, right?
Yeah.
So if there is this very profound belief among a lot of public leaders that if we do this, we're going to clean up and we'll have more and we can distribute that out. It's a calculated risk after reasonable limitations have been put on this thing. Cut it from 10 to up to 5. And the treasurer says, I'm not even going to put the 5, like Suzanne said. And then you've got, let's then come back and look at it and see how it did after we do that. Once you got that, our leadership internally in SEANC, in terms of our retiree council and our president and our executive committee talked about this a couple weeks ago. At that point, that's enough to give, just not to be a stamp of no. SEANC cannot just be a stamp of no on anything that's different, even if we just hate it. If there are reasonable limitations and safeguards put in place, then okay. And so, I don't think the speaker or anyone else intended to hurt anybody. I think he genuinely believes, hey, this can help the system. I think Treasurer Briner has shown so far that he is a really reasonable and careful person who is going to protect the members' money. And I think that everybody coming to the table and coming to something reasonable is huge.
It is huge. And you and I were talking too that this is a bit of a leap of faith. And now it's up to the legislature to show retirees and active employees, that there's a reason to have that faith and, provide for them in the budget.
And yeah, I guess I just keep coming back to the ultimate judge on whether it's successful or not would be the voters, right? Because
Correct.
the treasurer is elected.
That's right.
So that's what you usually want in government.
That's right.
Anything else we want to talk about before we get out of here? Oh, we wanted to talk a little bit about, we touched on it a little bit, but the reactions that we get on our social media.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And the budget time is always
Lit.
I won't say it's the worst.
Lots of
because
emotion.
We do want
Lots
some,
of emotion.
Yeah, we do want some interaction, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think
people need to get emotional
yeah.
and think.
I think
All
there's
of
a
it.
lot of times when we're out of session and that we were kind of begging for a little excitement on
Yeah,
our social
something
media,
new to post.
So,
Well, there's plenty of it right now.
right now, it is lit, as you say.
Yep.
It's funny that the Democrats or the liberal folks will say that we're too conservative, and the conservative folks will say that we're too liberal. I guess
It's
we're doing
always been the
something right.
case.
No,
But
we're-
it really does play out like that, and it's
Yeah.
And we are anything but partisan. We are anything but partisan.
Right. I mean, politically,
simple-
we're all over the map in terms
Yeah.
of, because it's issue driven by our members.
That's right.
And again, our members are reasonable people. So sometimes they take a position, study that position, study alternatives to that position, debate that, and come up with a new position.
yeah.
They do it right, and
Yeah.
that happens.
And-
But yeah, people do get mad at us from all sides.
And the one that kind of irks me the most is when folks are like, this proves that SEANC doesn't do anything for us. Like, you're on our Facebook page. Like, clearly we're doing something for you.
Well, I get that because they're angry and they're upset and they feel like they've really gotten the shaft as state employees, and you have to have somebody to lash out at and blame, and I get that. And they're really not going to call a legislator and chew them out and say
Absolutely not.
And well, frankly, we don't
My
want to
generation
chew.
will.
Well, your generation, well,
My
maybe
generation
No,
was.
y'all
Would
don't
they
do
even-
anything.
they're not going to call anybody. You might text them.
Yeah.
Oh no, they
If we-
filled one of the U.S. senators' mailbox with phone calls, just cussing him out, screaming at him.
But that wasn't just your generation, hon.
It
Yeah,
was
that
a lot of my
everybody.
generation. They were posting videos of themselves
Over the
calling
TikTok,
him
yeah.
over TikTok.
I call it the TikTok.
But
Sam, but would they over most anything else?
If they knew more about it, I think they would.
Well, that's why we're here. But to be clear, we don't want anybody calling and cussing anyone out.
No.
Yeah.
But first of all, ineffective. Secondly, rude.
we did try this time to give them outlet, and I think it was
Yeah.
a little bit successful. I set up an action for folks that if they really wanted to speak out, they could contact their
Yep,
senator
click here
really
and-
easily. And we've actually gotten a lot of constructive emails
Yeah.
because I can read them. I don't know if they know that or not, but they've been really good. And they're not form
Good.
emails. It's okay to send 30,000 form emails, but nobody's going to read them.
Maybe we
Mm-mm.
should
Yeah,
make
that's
a
right.
Discord server that just goes into the void, because those exist. You just type whatever you want and it goes off into the void of non-existence. And people
No,
can just
somebody-
yell and scream and cuss.
Somebody
in
wants
there.
to know the
and then-
person they're yelling at heard it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that people
the
want to
thing
be
is,
heard.
it's okay for people to get angry with us. We're here to be whatever people need us to be. An advocate, a shoulder to cry on, a sounding board. The problem is yelling at us isn't going to change the budget.
Yeah.
And saying that we don't do anything, that's an opinion. You can hold whatever opinion you want. But my guess is 9 times out of 10, those probably aren't people who are really engaged and have any awareness through our normal communications with our membership, what's being stopped on their behalf, what's being done
Yeah.
on their behalf. But Sam, when you mentioned TikTok,
Mhm.
that really was a very effective
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
grassroots lobby.
Oh, yeah. Less than 14 hours after the ban was official, it was back
Yeah.
because everyone was so mad.
But I bet a lot of people
It's coming.
tried to contact TikTok and got mad at them.
But isn't there talk about it coming back, right?
Oh,
Because of
it's-
the whole
it-
tariffs and things. I mean, I don't know. I'm not versed in the world.
Yeah,
of
just
TikTok
got a-
legislation.
Our
Like,
75-day
a reprieve.
extension is gone. I don't know how it still exists. I don't know how it's still on American iPhones, and there is no blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was
Well, it's
something
just
worked out.
politically- It's just politically.
I think
politically-
something might have happened with Meta, because now TikTok has been asking me, would you like to be able to see your Facebook friends on TikTok?
Yeah, probably.
I think there's some
they're all
meta intertwining in there now.
Yeah. So,
But it works.
but speaking of TikTok, you've been a celebrity this week on the TikTok. Both of you have. We've done awesome on our videos.
A lot more people look at that thing than I realized.
Who knew? You got like 6,000 views on your on one of those.
Is that a lot?
Wow.
That's how many followers I have.
Oh, it's not a lot then.
Throwing the gauntlet down over there.
Really?
Yeah.
We need to have her just
I
do
was
the
going to say,
video.
Sam, you just got recruited.
Yeah, for real. You're picking up a job.
Not on my personal TikTok.
No.
Yep, let's
That's
take
my
over
SEANC
Sam's personal
influencer.
TikTok. Wherever it has to be. Eminent domain.
It was interesting, too, that our Facebook Reels got just as many as TikTok, if not more.
Yeah.
Well, people like those little short,
Yeah.
digestible.
I think it kind of
tidbits of
shows that
information.
our members are on, obviously, our members are
Yeah.
on Facebook more than TikTok. But
Yeah.
both of them,
I mean,
both are doing great jobs. Keep it up.
Thank you, John.
it also makes sense why a lot of them wouldn't be on TikTok necessarily because didn't the state also, you're not
Ban.
allowed to have TikTok on a
Right, on any state
employee
device.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're on it at home
Yeah.
Yes.
on their phone.
They're definitely seeing it there.
Well, that was the Social Media Minute with Scenic. Now it's time for John's Wacky Weird Question of the Week.
John's wacky weird question of the week.
So I purposefully did not tell you guys what this question was because I want a real, raw, visceral reaction.
I'm scared.
Gosh.
I don't know if that's the right word, actually. But
Depends on what your question is.
Easter is upon us, right? This weekend. How do y'all feel about Cadbury eggs?
Ew.
Ew?
Caramel filled Cadbury eggs are absolutely delicious.
Really?
Yeah.
The caramel filled ones? Yes.
Yeah.
What are the other? The others are like a custard.
It's a
kinda weird.
marshmallow cream fluff.
It's gross.
Have you ever eaten, like when you were a kid, did you eat them?
Yeah, I tried one. That's how I don't like them.
Yeah,
It's just ew.
my aunt loved them, and it's like, ooh, like people actually. I think it's
Like
like
those
an
little
English thing.
Chocolate
right?
covered
It is.
cherries with the syrup stuff in it. Ew.
Cadbury is a British brand.
Yeah, so it reminds me of that quote from So I Married an Axe Murderer, where he says that all Scottish food is based on a dare.
I wouldn't be
It
surprised.
just seems like that's a kind of gross.
Here, bite
Scottish
this.
food rocks.
But you know what's better? And an all American and 4th of July, woo.
Woo.
You know what's better? The Reese's,
Reese's
egg.
egg.
The Reese's egg shall live.
There is more peanut butter in that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, and you can get them really cheap right after
They're
Easter.
so
Mhm.
good.
I like the double bubble eggs that come in a carton and they're little eggs that are bubblegum.
Oh, yeah, those are
Double
good.
bubbled eggs.
And you can get them in like a carton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm big. I like the kid. What about, what's the one with the
Peeps.
Peeps.
Ew.
Peeps? I like Peeps too. What about y'all? No?
Ugh.
No.
Okay. I thought those must be the most unhealthy little bits of chemical fluff that existed, but the Yucca app was very instructive on that.
Oh.
I actually looked recently, had no interest in eating them, just not my jam. However, y'all, it's not like random candy is way worse.
Yeah, it's mostly
Isn't that
air, right?
weird?
Mostly
Like,
air and sugar.
maybe
Marshmallow.
so.
Marshmallow and sugar.
What is the
Yeah.
Yucca app? We need to.
The Yucca app,
Man.
You can scan anything in that app. You can scan your skincare, your hair care,
It'll
your
tell you if
food.
it's good or
It'll
not.
tell
It's
you
awesome.
if there's
I've learned
any
something.
chemicals in it that are not good for you.
Like
hazardous
Yucca.
additives, non-hazardous.
I don't even go that far. I just scan it if it says poor quality.
Oh, I want to
Yeah.
know
Gosh.
about the additives.
I got to get on this.
Because
So
it'll
is
say
it like
poor,
Yucca, like
average,
Mhm.
good, great.
YUKA.
YUKA?
Not white. Yeah. YUKA, not YUC.
And this segment's not
But not
sponsored by Yucca, but
But it could
hey
be.
man,
I
Yucca,
I
if you're
gotta
out
say
there.
something to you guys though. Kind of sounds like a Chinese app. I think they're watching you through this Yucca app.
Oh,
But they're
please.
watching you
They're watching
all the
us
time.
anyway.
right?
Say.
Yeah,
They're
well,
in my phone.
they're
What-
not watching much.
What are y'all doing?
But I will tell you,
Oh.
peeps on the Yucca were shocking.
I like
Amazing.
Peeps. I didn't like Peeps when I was growing up. But
I saw
do like-
someone make s'mores with them.
So they're
Ooh,
basically
I don't know about that.
marshmallow on the inside, but the outside texture is what gets me because it's
Yeah. Can't bite through that
it's just-
crispy sugar.
yeah.
Ew.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's a lot of sugar.
yeah.
So what are y'all doing this weekend for Easter? Anything cool?
Girls' Day.
Oh,
Ooh.
nice.
Yeah.
Aw.
Brunch with my girls and
There needs to be like a Galentine's version for Easter.
mhm. That's kind of what this is.
I think we're going to the beach. We usually just go to the beach because my mom lives down there.
But are you going to have peeps?
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely have Peeps. We'll stop it.
And Reese's eggs.
Yeah, I think our kids are too old to enjoy the magic of Easter.
No, they're not.
So
I'm like John. I
They
enjoy
never
the
are.
magic of the day after Easter when those Reese's eggs go on sale. And this
Sale.
segment is also not sponsored by Reese's, but again,
It could be.
but it
be.
is sponsored by Peeps if they want to throw us some Peeps.
right, we gave them a lot of attention.
We should get those peep pillows so that we can put them on the calendar.
Hey.
Start doing some peep
But let's
sponsorships.
talk about what state employees are doing on Easter. A bunch of them
Working.
Working.
Yes. And we appreciate that. It seems like, it is. Every holiday we post.
Mm-hmm.
We probably post the same thing every holiday, but it's always true that people
That's
are
right.
working while
It doesn't
you're out
change.
enjoying
It's important to remind people.
Yeah.
while you're hunting your eggs.
Mhm.
Someone is keeping you safe.
Yeah. Some people's kids are looking at their Easter basket while mom or dad are at work taking care of us, the citizens. So thank you to everybody that's doing that, like John said. And
We appreciate you.
yeah. And if you're a hater on state employees, knock it off for one weekend while they serve you
Or just
on a
direct
holiday.
it at us on our Facebook page.
Yeah,
We
that's
can take
fine.
it.
Well, that's a good place to end. Thank you all for joining us this week and have a great Easter.
Bye.